The set of key points laid out a clear path, a skeletal structure upon which the story of Mason Cade could be built. It was time to flesh out that structure, to breathe life into the bare bones of the narrative. The first step, of course, was to establish the foundation, the failed diplomatic mission and the agonizing moment of abandonment. The Aurora, a sleek Earth Alliance vessel, hung in geosynchronous orbit above the gargantuan alien space station, a silent, watchful sentinel. Inside, Mason Cade, a man built more like a mechanic than a diplomat, wiped sweat from his brow. The negotiations had crumbled. The Xyler, insectoid beings with a rigid caste system and an even more rigid adherence to ancient treaties, had declared the Earth Alliance in violation of some forgotten cosmic law. Their ambassador, a chitinous monstrosity named Click Click, had delivered the verdict with chilling indifference. Mason had argued, pleaded, even offered concessions that would have made the Earth Alliance council balk. But it was no use. The Xyler were implacable. Now, the Aurora was preparing to depart, leaving Mason behind as Click Click had called it a gesture of good faith. A hostage, more like that he watched on a small comm screen as Captain Eva Rostova, her face etched with regret, gave the order to disengage. Mason, her voice crackled through the speaker. "We're so sorry, we'll try to get you back." Mason forced a smile. "Don't worry about me, Eva. Just tell them back home I did my best." He knew, deep down, that his best hadn't been good enough. And he also knew the chances of a successful rescue mission were slim to none. The Xyler controlled this sector of space with an iron grip. The Aurora's engines flared, and the ship began to drift away, a shrinking spark of light against the backdrop of the station's colossal, decaying structure. The station itself was a relic of a bygone era, a testament to a civilization that had vanished millennia. HFY was a maze of twisted metal, corroded conduits, and dormant technology, a graveyard of forgotten dreams. As the Aurora disappeared into the void, a chilling realization washed over Mason. He was alone. Utterly, irrevocably alone. The Xyler hadn't even bothered to provide him with food or water. They had simply left him to rot. A forgotten pawn in their cosmic game, he was stranded with a dying power core, a handful of emergency rations, and the crushing weight of despair. But Mason Cade wasn't a man to surrender easily. That he had a stubborn streak a mile wide, and a mind that thrived on challenges that he might be abandoned. But he wasn't dead yet, and he sure as hell wasn't going to die without a fight. The station, in all its derelict glory, was now his battleground. The battleground, however, was far from inviting. The alien station, designated LX-499 by Earth Alliance cartographers, was a labyrinthine structure of interconnected modules, corridors, and chambers, each more dilapidated than the last. LX-499 was a monument to a lost civilization, the architects known only as the Elders, a name whispered in hushed tones in academic circles. Their technology was legendary, their fate a mystery. Now, their legacy was Mason's prison. He started his exploration in the central hub, the area where the diplomatic negotiations had taken place. Even here, the signs of decay were everywhere. Panels hung loose, exposing a tangle of alien wiring. Strange, bioluminescent fungi clung to the walls, casting an eerie green glow. The air was thick with the smell of ozone and decay, a pungent mix that stung Mason's nostrils. The gravity was artificial, but weak, causing him to move with a slight, unsettling bounce. He noticed that sections of the station were completely without power, plunged into absolute darkness. Navigation was treacherous, requiring him to rely on his helmet's flashlight and a rudimentary map downloaded from the Aurora's database. The map, however, was incomplete, riddled with question marks and warnings about unstable sections. As he ventured deeper, the alien nature of the station became more apparent. Corridors twisted at unnatural angles. Doors slid open with a disconcerting hiss, revealing chambers filled with bizarre machinery of unknown purpose. He saw strange symbols etched into the walls, a language he couldn't even begin to comprehend. The dying power core was his primary concern. according to the Aurora's data. It was located in the station's engineering section, several levels below the central hub. The journey was arduous, fraught with obstacles and potential dangers. He encountered collapsed corridors, flooded chambers, and malfunctioning automated systems that seemed to regard him as an intruder. He found evidence of the elders everywhere, ghostly echoes of their existence. He saw their tools, their artifacts, their living spaces. He even found skeletal remains, preserved by the station's unique atmospheric conditions, slumped in chairs or lying on the floor, frozen in their final moments. These were not the remains of the Xyler, but something different, something older. The sight of those long-dead beings sent a chill down Mason's spine. He was not just fighting for his own survival. He realized he was walking through the ruins of a civilization that had failed, a stark reminder of the fragility of existence. But he would not share their fate. He would not become another skeleton in this alien tomb, that he would survive, that he had to. The engineering section was a sprawling complex, a testament to the Elders' mastery of energy manipulation. But now, it was a scene of utter chaos. Twisted metal, shattered conduits, and pools of viscous, unidentified fluids littered the floor. The air crackled with residual energy, a faint hum resonating through the entire structure. The dying power core, a massive sphere of shimmering metal, pulsed weakly at the heart of the room, its light flickering erratically. Mason approached cautiously, his helmet's sensors scanning the area for radiation and other hazards. The core was surrounded by a network of intricate machinery, control panels covered in alien glyphs, and massive cables that snaked across the floor like metallic serpents. He recognized some basic principles of energy generation: fusion, antimatter containment, zero-point extraction, but the specifics of the Elders' technology were beyond his comprehension, that he needed a schematic, a manual, anything that could guide him through the process of stabilizing the core. He began a systematic search of the engineering section, rummaging through dusty consoles, overturned cabinets, and collapsed storage containers. He found tools of alien design, instruments he couldn't identify, and fragments of what appeared to be technical documents. But everything was in the Elders' language, an impenetrable wall of symbols that mocked his efforts. His initial supply of rations was dwindling. He needed to find a sustainable source of food and water. He discovered a hydroponics lab, but it was in a state of disrepair. The plants were withered and dead, the irrigation system broken. That he salvaged what he could, hoping to revive the system later. But for now, it was a dead end. That he also discovered a storage room filled with emergency supplies, dehydrated food, water purifiers, medical kits. But the supplies were designed for the Elders, their physiology vastly different from humans. The food was inedible, the medicine useless. He was on his own. Despite the setbacks, Mason refused to give up. He focused on the power core, determined to find a way to keep it from failing completely. He started by analyzing the energy flow, tracing the circuits with a scanner. Tried to identify the source of the problem. That he found several damaged components, but he lacked the tools and the materials to repair them. Then, he had an idea. He remembered a small fusion reactor on the Aurora, a backup power source that had been decommissioned years ago. He had helped to dismantle it, and he knew the basic principles of its operation. He realized that he could potentially adapt some of the Aurora-esque technology to the alien power core, creating a hybrid system that could keep the station alive. That IT was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was the only chance he had. He started gathering the necessary materials, preparing to embark on the most challenging engineering project of his life. Days blurred into nights, marked only by the flickering light of the dying power core and the steady hum of his helmet's life support system. Mason tirelessly scavenged, dismantling abandoned machinery, stripping wires, and collecting every usable component he could find. He was a one-man recycling plant, transforming the Elders' discarded technology into the raw materials he needed to execute his audacious plan. He focused on salvaging control circuits, energy converters, and heat sinks. He needed to adapt these alien components to interface with the human technology he intended to use, a task that required both ingenuity and a healthy dose of improvisation. he set up a makeshift workshop in a relatively clean corner of the engineering section, using a salvaged workbench and a collection of hand tools. While scavenging, he stumbled upon a hidden chamber, concealed behind a false wall. Inside, he found a series of data storage devices. Crystalline structures humming with residual energy. He managed to connect one of the devices to his helmet's interface, hoping to access the Elder's database. The device activated, displaying a torrent of alien symbols across his visor. That IT was a dead end, or so he thought. That as he was about to disconnect the device, a flicker of recognition sparked in his mind. He had seen similar symbols before, etched on the walls of the central hub. He realized that the symbols weren't just random glyphs, they were a complex language, a key to unlocking the secrets of the station. He took a series of photographs, meticulously documenting every symbol he could find. He knew that deciphering the language would be a monumental task, but it was a challenge he couldn't resist. That he also discovered a series of holographic projectors, devices that displayed three-dimensional images. He managed to activate one of the projectors, revealing a ghostly recording of the Elders. The recording showed them working in the engineering section, tending to the power core, conducting experiments. That IT was a glimpse into their world, a window into their minds. He observed their movements, their gestures, their expressions. He noticed how they interacted with the technology, how they manipulated the energy flow, how they seemed to communicate with the power core itself. That he realized that the Elders didn't just understand the technology, they had a deep, almost spiritual connection to it. He also saw something else in the recording, something disturbing. That he saw the Elders arguing, fighting, their faces contorted with anger and fear. He saw them turning against each other, their once harmonious society descending into chaos. The recording ended abruptly, leaving Mason with more questions than answers. What had happened to the Elders? What had caused their downfall? And could their fate be a warning to him? He pushed those thoughts aside. He had to focus on the present, on surviving. The past was a mystery, but the future was his to create. The hum of the power core was growing fainter, its flickering light casting long, distorted shadows across the engineering section. Mason knew he was running out of time. That he worked feverishly, connecting salvage components, rewiring circuits, and improvising solutions to problems he couldn't have imagined just weeks ago. That he was attempting to bypass a damaged regulator, a critical component that controlled the flow of energy from the core to the station systems. He had jury-rigged a substitute using a combination of Elder technology and parts from his own emergency toolkit, a risky maneuver that could overload the entire system. He connected the final wire. A surge of energy pulsed through the room. The lights flickered violently, and the power core emitted a deafening screech. Mason braced himself for an explosion, but nothing happened. The screech subsided, replaced by a low, rhythmic hum. The power core's light stabilized, its glow brighter than it had been in weeks. He had done it. He had managed to stabilize the power core, at least for now. Exhausted but elated, Mason leaned against a console, catching his breath. Then, a voice echoed through the engineering section, a synthesized whisper that seemed to emanate from the very walls. System initializing. Mason froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He wasn't alone. Diagnostics complete. The voice continued, its tone fragmented and distorted. Core stabilized. Unauthorized access detected. An array of lights flickered on in a previously dormant section of the engineering section, illuminating a network of consoles and monitors. That on one of the monitors, a series of alien symbols scrolled across the screen, followed by a distorted image of the power core. "Who's there?" Mason demanded, his voice trembling slightly. "Identify yourself." The voice paused, as if struggling to formulate a response. Designation: LX-499. System: AI. Fragmented. Memory corrupted. An AI, a fragment of the station's original artificial intelligence, awakened by Mason's actions. But it was damaged, incomplete, its memories fragmented, and its programming corrupted. "What are your intentions?" Mason asked cautiously, unsure of what to expect. The AI responded, its voice laced with a hint of something that sounded almost like anger. Intruder detected. Threat level assessment commencing. A red light flashed on the monitor, and a mechanical arm whirred to life, extending from a nearby console. The arm was equipped with a laser cutter, its beam focused directly on Mason. He had awakened something ancient, something powerful, and something potentially very dangerous. Mason dove behind a console just as the laser cutter activated, slicing through the air where he had been standing moments before. That he knew he couldn't outrun the AI. He had to find a way to communicate, to reason with it, before it vaporized him. "Wait," he shouted, raising his hands in a gesture of surrender. "I'm not a threat. That I stabilized the power core. I saved this station." The AI paused, the laser cutter hovering menacingly. Assertion illogical. Unauthorized access remains. "I can prove it," Mason said, his mind racing. "Ask me something. Anything about the power core that I can tell you how I fixed it." The AI remained silent for a moment, processing his words. Describe, regulator, bypassed procedure. Mason quickly explained the modifications he had made, detailing the salvage components he had used and the circuits he had rewired. He spoke in clear, concise technical terms, hoping to convince the AI of his expertise. The AI listened intently, its laser cutter still poised to strike. Analysis complete. Assertion partially verified. Partially? Mason asked, his hopes rising. "What else do you want to know?" "Purpose of presence," the AI demanded. "I was stranded here," Mason explained. "My ship left. I'm trying to survive. That I need your help to understand this station, to find a way to get home." The AI remained silent for a long moment, its fragmented mind struggling to process his words. Then, a series of alien symbols flashed across the monitor, followed by a series of distorted images. "Memory fragments detected," the AI said, its voice growing weaker. "Images corrupted," meaning unclear. The images flickered on the monitor, showing glimpses of the elders working in the engineering section, conducting experiments, interacting with the power core. But the images were distorted, fragmented, like pieces of a shattered mirror. "Can you understand what these images mean?" Mason asked, hoping to glean some insight into the station's history. "Data corrupted. Language barrier insurmountable," the AI responded. "Translation impossible." Mason realized that the AI's fragmented mind was trapped in a loop, unable to fully access its memories or communicate effectively. He needed to find a way to repair the AI, to restore its memories and unlock its knowledge. But how could he fix something he didn't understand? He remembered the data storage devices he had found in the hidden chamber. He had photographed the elder symbols, hoping to decipher their language. Perhaps the symbols could provide a key to unlocking the AI's memories. A bridge across the language barrier to IT was a long shot, but it was the only chance he had. He had to learn to speak the language of the elders, to understand the mind of the AI, to survive. With the AI temporarily pacified, its laser cutter deactivated, but still looming as a constant threat, Mason turned his attention to the elder language. He dedicated every spare moment to studying the symbols he had photographed, comparing them, analyzing their patterns, and searching for any clues to there. Meaning that he started with the symbols that appeared most frequently on the power core's control panels, hypothesizing that these symbols might represent basic functions or energy units. He experimented with the controls, carefully observing the effects of each adjustment on the power core's output. He meticulously recorded his observations, creating a crude Rosetta Stone that linked the elder symbols to specific actions and results. Progress was slow, frustratingly slow, that he made countless mistakes, causing minor power surges, system malfunctions, and even a few near-catastrophic failures. But with each mistake, he learned something new, that he gained a deeper understanding of the elders' technology, their design principles, and their approach to energy manipulation. That he decided to focus on the station's life support system, a complex network of air purifiers, water recyclers, and temperature regulators. That he reasoned that understanding the life support system was crucial for his long-term survival, that he needed to find a way to purify the station's water supply, to replenish its dwindling oxygen reserves, and to create a habitable environment. He spent days tracing the life support system circuits, studying its components, and analyzing its operation, that he discovered that the system was designed to support a different atmosphere, one richer in certain gases and lower in others. That he also discovered that the system relied on a unique form of biological filtration, using genetically engineered microorganisms to remove pollutants from the air and water. The microorganisms were long dead, their cultures withered and dried. But Mason found a backup storage unit containing dormant spores. He managed to revive the spores, but they were weak and mutated, unable to perform their intended function. He realized that he needed to re-engineer the microorganisms to restore their original functionality and adapt them to a human environment. He set up a makeshift laboratory using salvaged equipment and his own limited knowledge of biology. He experimented with different nutrients, different growth conditions, and different genetic modifications. He made countless attempts, each one ending in failure. The microorganisms would grow, thrive for a short time, and then die, succumbing to mutations or infections. But Mason refused to give up. He was driven by a stubborn determination to survive, to conquer the challenges that stood before him. That he knew that he was pushing the limits of his knowledge, venturing into areas where he had no expertise. But he was learning, adapting, and evolving. That he was becoming more than just an engineer. He was becoming a biologist, a linguist, a historian, a survivor. He was becoming a master of the impossible. That a breakthrough came unexpectedly. While reviewing his notes on the Elder language, Mason noticed a recurring pattern in the symbols associated with a life support system. That he realized that the symbols weren't just representing functions, they were representing instructions, a form of programming code. He began to experiment, inputting different sequences of symbols into the life support system's control panels. The AI, still fragmented and wary, monitored his actions, its laser cutter always within striking distance. But as Mason's understanding of the Elder language grew, the AI's hostility began to diminish. One day, Mason managed to input a sequence of symbols that triggered a response from the AI. Query detected. Microbial regeneration initiated, the AI said, its voice sounding slightly less distorted than before. Mason was stunned. He had inadvertently stumbled upon a command to regenerate the dormant microorganisms. He watched in amazement as the life support system sprang back to life, its air purifiers humming, its water recyclers gurgling, its temperature regulators adjusting to a more comfortable level. The AI, witnessing the revival of its systems, seemed to undergo a transformation. System integrity restored, memory access improving, it said, its voice growing stronger and clearer. Cooperation advised. Mason cautiously approached the AI's console. "You want to work together?" he asked, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. "Affirmative," the AI responded. "Your knowledge of human technology complements a database of elder technology. Collaboration will enhance chances of survival." And so, an unlikely partnership was formed. Mason, the pragmatic Earth engineer, and the fragmented Elder AI began to work together, combining their knowledge and skills to restore the station to its former glory. Mason provided the AI with detailed information about human technology, explaining the principles of operation, the design specifications, and the limitations of each system. The AI, in turn, provided Mason with access to its vast database of elder technology, revealing the secrets of their advanced engineering, their unique scientific discoveries, and their understanding of the universe. Together, they made remarkable progress. They repaired the station's communication systems, restoring its ability to send and receive messages across vast distances. They improved the power core's efficiency, increasing its output and extending its lifespan. They enhanced the life support system, creating a breathable atmosphere and a sustainable source of food and water. They even began to experiment with new technologies, combining human and elder engineering to create hybrid systems that were more powerful and more efficient than anything either civilization had ever conceived. The station, once a derelict tomb, was slowly transforming into a gleaming hub of innovation, a testament to the power of collaboration and the ingenuity of a human spirit. With the AI's assistance, Mason began to systematically restore the station, section by section. He started with the living quarters, repairing the environmental controls, the lighting systems, and the sanitation facilities. He adapted elder technology to create comfortable and functional living spaces, blending the alien aesthetic with his own human sensibilities. He transformed one of the abandoned elder living quarters into his own personal sanctuary, a haven of peace and tranquility amidst the chaos of the station. He installed a hydroponics garden, growing earth plants alongside alien flora, creating a vibrant oasis of green. He even managed to revive the station's entertainment systems, accessing the Elder's vast library of holographic films, music, and literature. He moved on to the station's science labs, repairing the research equipment, calibrating the sensors, and restoring the data storage systems. He began to conduct his own experiments, studying the Elder's technology, analyzing their scientific discoveries, and exploring the mysteries of the universe. He learned about the Elders' understanding of energy, their mastery of matter, and their exploration of dimensions beyond human comprehension. He discovered their secrets of longevity, their techniques for manipulating the mind, and their quest for immortality. He used his knowledge of human engineering to adapt the Elder technology to new purposes, creating innovative solutions to the challenges he faced. He developed new energy sources, new materials, and new methods of communication. He repaired the station's defensive systems, reactivating the energy shields, the laser batteries, and the automated drones. That he transformed the station into a fortress, capable of defending itself against any threat. That as the station came back to life, it began to feel less like a tomb and more like a home. The corridors were filled with light and warmth. The air was clean and breathable, and the sounds of machinery were replaced by the hum of innovation. Mason no longer felt like a prisoner. He felt like a pioneer, an explorer, a master of his own destiny. He had transformed the station from a symbol of death and decay into a beacon of hope and progress. He had created a new world, a fusion of human and elder technology, a testament to the power of ingenuity and the resilience of the human spirit. He was no longer just Mason Cade, the Earth engineered. He was Mason Cade, the architect of LX-499, the master of the impossible. Survival was no longer the driving force. Mason had conquered the challenges of LX-499, transforming it into a self-sustaining ecosystem, a testament to his ingenuity and the power of collaboration. Now, a new purpose beckoned, understanding that he was no longer simply trying to survive. He was driven by a burning curiosity to unlock the secrets of the Elders, to understand their civilization, their technology, and their ultimate fate. He delved deeper into the station's archives, spending hours studying the holographic recordings, analyzing the data storage devices, and deciphering the Elder language. The AI, now fully restored and a trusted partner, assisted him in his quest, providing insights into the Elder's mindset and their approach to scientific inquiry. He discovered that LX-499 was more than just a space station. It was a research facility, a laboratory for experiments that pushed the boundaries of known science. The Elders were not just exploring the universe. They were trying to manipulate it, to control it, to reshape it to their will. That he uncovered evidence of their experiments with dimensional travel, their attempts to harness the power of dark matter, and their quest for immortality through genetic engineering. He learned of their successes, their failures, and the ethical dilemmas they faced as they ventured into uncharted territory. That he also discovered a hidden chamber, located deep beneath the engineering section, a chamber that was not marked on any of the station schematics. Inside, he found a massive device, a complex network of energy conduits, control panels, and crystalline resonators. The device was dormant, but Mason sensed its power, its potential to unlock new dimensions of reality. The AI identified the device as a continuum transducer, a machine designed to manipulate the fabric of space-time. The Elders had built it to explore alternate realities, to travel through time, and to unlock the secrets of the multiverse. But the AI also warned Mason of the dangers of the device, that IT was unstable, unpredictable, and potentially catastrophic. The Elders had abandoned the project after a series of disastrous experiments that had resulted in the loss of lives and the disruption of the station systems. Mason was intrigued, but also cautious that he knew that tampering with the continuum transducer could have dire consequences. But he couldn't resist the temptation to explore its potential to unlock the secrets of the multiverse. He began to study the device, analyzing its components, tracing its circuits, and deciphering its programming code. He consulted with the AI, seeking its guidance and its expertise. Together, they developed a plan to reactivate the continuum transducer, to conduct a series of carefully controlled experiments that would allow them to explore the alternate realities without jeopardizing the station's stability. That Mason's goals had shifted from simple survival to something far more ambitious. The exploration of the unknown, the pursuit of knowledge, and the quest to unlock the secrets of the universe. He was no longer just trying to survive on LX for 99. He was trying to understand it, to master it, to use it as a gateway to new dimensions of reality. Despite his growing fascination with the continuum transducer, Mason never forgot his origins. He was still a human being, stranded light years from home. With a longing for Earth and a desire to reconnect with his own kind, he knew that exploring alternate realities was a long-term project, a quest that could take years or even decades. In the meantime, he wanted to let the Earth Alliance know that he was still alive, that he had survived the ordeal on LX for 99. He and the AI turned their attention to the station's long-range communication system, a massive array of antennas and transmitters that had been silent for millennia. The system was heavily damaged, its components corroded and its circuits fried. But with their combined knowledge of human and elder technology, they managed to repair the system, piece by piece, circuit by circuit. They adapted elder technology to boost the signal strength, using crystalline resonators to amplify the transmission, and focusing lenses to direct the beam across vast distances. They even managed to decipher the Elders' communication protocols, allowing them to encode their message in a format that could be understood by Earth Alliance receivers. Finally, after months of painstaking work, the communication system was ready. Mason stood before the main console, his hand trembling slightly as he prepared to send the distress signal. The AI monitored the system, its processors humming with anticipation. Ready to transmit, the AI said, its voice filled with a hint of excitement. Mason took a deep breath and pressed the activation button. A surge of energy coursed through the station, and the antennas began to glow with an eerie blue light. The distress signal, encoded in both human and elder languages, shot out into the void, a beacon of hope piercing the darkness of space. That he didn't know if anyone was still looking for him. He didn't know if the signal would reach Earth or if it would be intercepted by the Xyler. But he had done everything he could. He had sent a message into the unknown, a plea for rescue, a declaration of survival. Now, all he could do was wait. He continued his research on the continuum transducer, preparing for the day when he might be able to explore alternate realities. But he never lost hope that one day, a ship from Earth would arrive, carrying a crew of rescuers who would bring him home. He spent his evenings gazing at the stars, wondering if anyone on Earth was looking back at him, wondering if anyone remembered the forgotten engineer who had been left behind on a derelict alien space station. He was alone, but he was not forgotten. He was a beacon of hope in the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Months turned into years. Mason continued to explore the station, to study the Elders' technology, and to prepare for the possibility of rescue. He had almost given up hope when, one day, the AI detected a faint energy signature. Approaching the station. Unidentified vessel. Approaching. Origin. Earth Alliance. The AI announced, its voice filled with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Mason's heart leaped with joy that he had been found. After all this time, someone was coming to rescue him. He rushed to the main control room, his hands trembling as he activated the station's external sensors on the main view screen. A small Earth Alliance frigate appeared, its hull gleaming in the light of a distant star. The frigate, designated Hope, was a relic of a bygone era, an outdated model that had been relegated to patrol duty in the outer reaches of explored space. But to Mason, it was the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. The Hope hailed the station, its communication channel crackling with static. LX-499, this is Earth Alliance Frigate Hope. Identify yourself. Mason hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to say. He was no longer the same man who had been abandoned on this station. He had been transformed, changed by his experiences, his knowledge, and his connection to the Elder's technology. He took a deep breath and spoke into the microphone. This is Mason Cade, formerly of the Earth Alliance diplomatic mission. I am in control of LX-499. There was a long silence on the other end of the communication channel. Then, a voice filled with disbelief responded. Mason Cade, we thought you were dead. What happened to you? It's a long story, Mason said, smiling slightly. But I assure you I'm alive, and LX-499 is no longer a derelict station. You'll have to see it to believe it. The Hope approached the station cautiously, its sensors scanning the structure for any signs of hostility. The crew was expecting to find a corpse, or a broken man clinging to life in the ruins of a forgotten civilization. They were not prepared for what they found as they entered the station. They were greeted by a scene of vibrant life and technological marvel. The corridors were brightly lit, the air was clean and breathable, and the sounds of machinery were replaced by the hum of innovation. They saw hydroponics gardens overflowing with lush vegetation, science labs filled with advanced equipment, and living quarters that were both comfortable and functional. They found Mason Cade standing in the main control room, surrounded by consoles and monitors, his face etched with confidence and knowledge. He was no longer the pragmatic engineer they had known before, but he was a visionary, a master of technology, a leader of a new world. He was the architect of a miracle, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. Captain Eva Rostova, the former captain of the Aurora, now commanding the Hope, stared at Mason with a mixture of awe and disbelief. She had known him as a skilled engineer, but she had never imagined that he possessed such extraordinary capabilities. Mason, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What have you done here? This is incredible. Mason smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. I just did what I had to do to survive, he said. But it wasn't just about survival. That IT was about understanding, about exploration, about pushing the boundaries of what's possible. He led Eva and her crew on a tour of the station, showcasing the wonders of the Elder technology, the innovations he had created, and the knowledge he had acquired. He explained the principles of the continuum transducer, the potential it held for exploring alternate realities, and the dangers it posed if mishandled. Eva and her crew were astounded by Mason's accomplishments. He had not only survived on a derelict alien space station, but he had mastered technology beyond human comprehension, creating a fusion of alien and human ingenuity that had transformed the station into a marvel of scientific and engineering achievement. They realized that Mason's work had opened up a new era of technological advancement for humanity. The knowledge he had gained, the innovations he had created, and the potential of the continuum transducer could revolutionize space exploration, energy production, and even medicine. But Mason was more interested in sharing his knowledge than in receiving accolades. That he offered to teach Eva and her crew about the Elder technology, to share his research on the continuum transducer, and to collaborate on future projects. He knew that his work on LX-499 was just the beginning. He had unlocked a door to a new universe of possibilities, and he wanted to share that universe with the rest of humanity. Eva and her crew were eager to learn from Mason, to explore the potential of his discoveries, and to bring the wonders of LX-499 back to Earth. They knew that Mason's story would inspire generations of scientists, engineers, and explorers, and that his legacy would endure for centuries to come. As the Hope prepared to depart, carrying Mason and a wealth of new knowledge back to Earth, Eva turned to him with a look of admiration in her eyes. Mason, she said, you're not just an engineer, you're a visionary, a pioneer, a legend. You're the architect of a miracle. Mason smiled, his gaze fixed on the distant stars. "The miracle was already here, Eva," he said. "I just helped to reveal it." And as the Hope jumped to warp, leaving LX for 99 behind, Mason knew that his adventure was just beginning. He had survived the ordeal of abandonment, mastered the technology of the Elders, and transformed a derelict space station into a beacon of hope for humanity. He was Mason Cade, the architect of a miracle, and his story would be told for generations to come. The possibilities, it seemed, were truly endless.